think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us today on this Thursday. And you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. We're so glad that you are with us, that you are listening to us here at Conduit News. We got a great show for you. We got Michael Bustler coming up at the bottom of this hour. Also then John Hoover, the bottom of the next hour. John Hoover is the writer and producer of the play Viable that will be touring Arkansas in the month of September, late September. They're still looking for venues, looking for maybe churches to put this play on about the tragedy of abortion and what happens emotionally, psychologically, what happens with your relationships when you do decide to terminate a pregnancy, what can happen, what has happened to many women out there. And so anyway, it is, we'll be talking to him about his, I just want to talk to him about, how he got involved in something like this. I mean, a lot of people talk about how they want to write a book someday, but very few people actually sit down and do it. You know what I mean? A lot of people talk about how they'd like to do a lot of things. But a lot of those things are in addition to what they're already doing when it comes time to actually sitting down and doing those things that you dream about. Will you actually do it? So that might just be my first question. But anyway, telephone number 870-275-9799. I'm going to start with this dress. Or not dress, but this. So Jeffrey Epstein, we know, sicko. Oh, by the way, update on that. Autopsy came back and said that his neck was broken. That's right. Jeffrey Epstein's neck was broken. And they say, well, in hanging, this is what they have actually said, according to the report I read this morning. In a hanging victim, this particular bone can break from hanging, but most of the time this particular bone breaks from strangulation. That's what a report I read this morning said. So, yeah, I mean, the plot thickens, right? So speaking of Epstein, yesterday the internet was disgusted, and also, I mean, just how twisted these people are. Reportedly, a portrait of Bill Clinton in drag was hung at Jeffrey Epstein's home. You heard me right. If you haven't heard this, you need to look it up. You need to log on right now to conduitnews.com so you can see the photo that we're posting, or you can log on to facebook.com/conduitnews. Oh, you may need to mute that. Oh, it's already muted. So Bill Clinton portrait of ex-president in drag discovered at pedo Epstein's home. This is from the Daily Star. I think the Daily Mail had the original scoop here. So they're the two. By the way, it's getting harder and harder to find the photos of Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton hanging out together. You got to know where to look. Because notice those are two different photos of them, not the ones that they could use with, them hanging out on an airplane. Scrolling down, this is the photo. This is the painting. Now, look at this. Look at this. Is everyone just embarrassed? What strange, weird. This is so weird. It's a photo of Bill Clinton in drag wearing red high-heeled shoes in the Oval Office. The artist is, I can't remember her name, but, the artist is female, and apparently this particular painting. Now, so many people think that this is Monica Lewinsky's dress, the dress that for some reason Linda Tripp decided to save with the president's DNA on it. Gross. So it's allegedly this is Bill wearing Monica Lewinsky's dress in the Oval Office, pointing at us. I want you. Or next. Who's next? All right. Scrolling down. Hang on, let me pull it up here. I'm using the wrong screen. I can't help it. Hang on a second. Yeah, so here's Hillary wearing the exact same dress. Look at this photo. So that might be Hillary's dress, which is even stranger if you think about it. That would actually mean what, Joe? If that's Hillary's dress that he is wearing in the painting, that would mean that we did get a female Clinton in the White House? Hillary Clinton. Oh gosh, this is so weird. What is going on? It was absolutely Bill Clinton. She said she was visiting the disgraced. So there was a reporter or a consultant of someone's. Yeah, let's read the whole thing. Dead pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein had a portrait of an ex-U.S. President Bill Clinton dressed as a woman. The picture shows Clinton lounging suggestively in a chair at the Oval Office wearing red heels and a blue dress. Huh. It's thought to refer to an outfit worn by Monica Lewinsky. The dress is also similar to one worn by Bill and Hillary, Bill's wife Hillary, at the 2009 Kennedy Center honors. An anonymous source secretly photographed the painting after spotting it inside Epstein's $56 million mansion in October 2012. The source said she was visiting the disgraced Wall Street financier to present a business plan when she saw the painting in a room off the stairway of the Upper East Side townhouse. He was wearing heels, a blue dress, and his hand was in a weird position. The former president, 72, also flew on Epstein's private plane, dubbed the Lolita Express on a number of occasions. Anyway, this is so strange. I'll tell you what's even weirder. You look into the other paintings that this artist have done, you're going to find some really strange stuff. There's one of George W. Bush. We may talk about that tomorrow. But I guess, can you scroll up? Because this is what I would like the people who are listening, especially those who can comment. Let me see the photo again. Look at that. That is so disgusting. What is wrong with these people? These people are weird. I want you to caption this. Can any of you out there, like if you could caption this, you can't take, we kind of already took the one of, well, we did have a woman in the White House. But somebody, how would you caption this photo in a sentence or in a couple of words? Sound off, facebook.com/Conduit News. I think that would be a fun exercise this morning as we, as a society, grasp with not being able to trust anything the media can tell us, especially surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody believes it. Again, nobody. And that, to me, is it's very encouraging, because they need to understand you can't believe the media most of the time. Believe the complete opposite. Look at the Statue of Liberty. We talked about this yesterday. In the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, they have compiled a number of reports from The Wire about the poem of the Statue of Liberty. Joe, check this out. Statue's poem point of contention. Huddled masses means Europeans, immigration chief says. No, that's not what he said. He was specifically talking about the majority of immigrants who came to the United States during the time when the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island and during that historical period. That is what he was talking about. Yes, most of those immigrants were from Western Europe. It doesn't mean that huddled masses only meant white people. He was specifically talking about the historic time. Matter of fact, if you don't believe me, go to the YouTube clip. Here is Ken Cuccinelli, and this is what he said. And, of course, what does the media do? All they can do is claim racism. Here, listen to the clip. This is over on the YouTube page.
Well, of course, that poem was referring back to people coming from Europe, where they had class-based societies, where people were considered wretched if they weren't in the right class. And it was written 1 year after the first federal public charge rule was written, that says, and I'll quote it, "Any person unable to take care of himself without becoming a public charge," unquote, would be inadmissible.
Stop.
Or in the terms that my agency deals with.
So they're saying, oh, he's a racist. He is saying that the poem is only for white people. No, he's not. He's talking about the context of the poem, looking back to Western Europe and Western civilization and saying, hey, all of these dregs of society that you say can't make it because they were born, because of the way they were born, they can come over here and they can pursue their dreams and be free. Period. Has nothing to do with welfare. Let me say that again. The Statue of Liberty poem, the Emma Lazarus poem, has nothing to do with welfare. And the mainstream media has been actively lying to you over the past 3 days because of the president's move on this, his change in this rule. Let's go to the... First of all, go to the YouTube search results. I just want everyone to understand this. What's in the search results? Ken Cuccinelli, Lazarus. And just like everything else, the mainstream or YouTube changes their search results, or they manipulate their search results. When you're actually looking for the clip of what he said, you don't get the clip of what he said. You get 4 news on NBC, CBS, another CBS. You get the mainstream media analysis with headlines like Trump immigration official, Statue of Liberty poem is about Europeans. Trump immigration official Ken Cuccinelli tweaks the Statue of Liberty poem. That's another big one. Go to the Google search results just to prove my point here. You just type in Emma Lazarus poem, and you get headlines like Statue of Liberty. I can't read that from here. What does that say?
Statue of Liberty poem of Emma Lazarus poem quoted changed by Trump immigration.
Yeah, changed. So Statue of Liberty poem changed by Trump official. Don't let the Trump administration rewrite Emma Lazarus. Okay, so here is an example. Where you can take what the mainstream media is telling you and believe the complete opposite. Is the context of the poem being rewritten? Absolutely not. Is Ken Cuccinelli correct? Absolutely. Is Ken Cuccinelli, well, I guess that would be, is Ken Cuccinelli wrong? No, he's not wrong. He's correct. Is Ken Cuccinelli racist? They're telling you he's racist. No, he's not. Just believe the complete opposite of what the media tells you, and you're right like 90% of the time. Speaking of the poem, let's see, back to this Gazette article here. Let's see, Cuccinelli, this is compiled again by the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Beto O'Rourke, who is posing as a Hispanic person, and he's actually Irish. This administration finally admitted what we've known all along. They think the Statue of Liberty only applies to white people. Cuccinelli said in an interview with CNN on Tuesday that the Emma Lazarus poem emblazoned on the pedestal referred to people coming from Europe where they had class-based societies where people were considered wretched if they weren't in the right class. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. He said people coming from Europe because historically when they put the poem there, that's where the people were coming from. They were coming from Ireland. They were coming from Italy. That's where they were coming from. An 1883 poem to raise money. Cuccinelli was asked earlier Tuesday on NPR whether the words "Give me you're tired, you're poor" were part of the American ethos. Cuccinelli responded, they certainly are. Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge. Now, him specifically referencing the public charge rule is a historical context that the media cannot let the people know about. That, yes, back in the day, we had strict welfare rules, and we did not want immigrants coming over here legally and then becoming dependent on the government. And it's total common sense if you're trying to build a civilization, which is what we were trying to do, is what we're still trying to do. Real quick, the new Colossus. You've heard of this, but the new Colossus. I mean, this is very simple. It's the poem that's written by Emma Lazarus, and people really want to. They only want to quote the last half of the poem. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. If you're just to read that, most people wouldn't even know. If you're going to take the left's view, you'd kind of stop after yearning to breathe free, because the rest doesn't make any sense if it's about welfare, right? Because then you've called those huddled masses wretched. Ugh. How dare you call poor people wretched? Who are you, Joe Biden? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Why would you say, give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free? The wretched. It's trying to make a point, isn't it? Man, we have so much pride. Like, we just assume that the people who came before us were idiots. We assume that we are smarter than the people who came before us. And we're not. Like, in many cases, we're not. And that's what's so frustrating. I mean, even if you go back into biblical times, people assume, oh yeah, those people were so stupid. Man, no, they were not. They knew about subtext. Anyway, so this is how the poem reads. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, talking about the Colossus of Rhodes. Here at our sea-washed Sunset Gates, meaning like we're different. We're different than you guys. We're not like Greek or Greece. We're not like that. Here at our sea-washed gates, Sunset Gates, shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities fame. Keep, listen to this, keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she. With silent lips, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp above the golden door. All it is saying, look, who you have cast aside and will not let succeed because of government structures, regulations, bloodlines, class systems, you know, like they have the opportunity to succeed here, but not because they're going to get on a government welfare program that has nothing to do with it. Back in just a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Welcome back. We've got with Arkansas Right to Life, Rose Mims is back with us. Rose, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
I'm so glad that you could be with us, and I'm also really excited about this play that's going to be touring across the state of Arkansas called Viable. What can you tell us about it?
Well, we're very excited, too, to be a part of this. I was able to see the play in Charleston, South Carolina in June at our national convention. It had just premiered in South Carolina, and they are starting a national tour in Arkansas. Is going to have 4 cities where people can come for free and see this play that it is, they call it The Truth, presented in one act. It's a 75-minute play, 3 actors, 2 chairs. It is a simple but very powerful storyline that tells the story about a secret abortion and then plays out with the trauma and the problems that a secret abortion, how it affects the life of the woman who has
Need your
that
daily
abortion
news
in her
fix?
past.
Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Well, Woods on Facebook, who's watching the show, said that, quote, "We all know Hillary Rodham Clinton ran things during Bill Clinton's presidency." So show the photo again. So I would imagine that means that Woods thinks that this is Bill in Hillary's dress, not Monica Lewinsky's. Look at this. Look how sick this is. Hey. I like to dress in drag. I like to get in the Oval Office and do what? Only on the weekends. Do I like to dress in drag and put on my red shoes and my blue dress? How patriotic of me. And I got white hair, so I got all 3 colors. And I'm white. I'm also white. Dude. This is so funny. This is so funny. This is so funny. This is an American president who's friends with a guy, clearly friends with a dude that's got him in drag in his house. Which raises serious questions about the rest of their relationship. I mean, come on. Can you imagine if one of your good friends that you've been on plane rides with 23 times had a picture of you, a painting, not a picture, but a painting of you in drag in your house that he's showing off to his buddies? You know, the one thing these people can't stand is being laughed at. Let's just keep laughing, folks. We'll be back in just a moment with Michael Busler. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
How it affects not only her emotional feelings and relationships with other people, but her spiritual relationship with her God, Jesus Christ.
So I don't. Does it have a happy end? I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, is it happy ending or is it a tragedy?
Well, let me put it this way: at the end of the play, the woman realizes, that the secret abortion has wounded her deeply and is causing so many of the issues that she is experiencing in her life and has for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes clean and she, reconciles with God and receives that forgiveness and healing that she needs and has hope that her relationships will now improve. And
exposing
really
the truth
when a
and
woman
everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. Hey, coming up at the top of the hour, I do want to talk about what is going on here in Arkansas concerning ophthalmologists and optometrists and their disagreement over a new law that's been passed, and what's going on with them trying to overturn it with the Secretary of State's office, and now the Supreme Court may be getting involved. We'll talk about that coming up at 7:05. Folks, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in China. We talked about this yesterday with Hong Kong and the president. And it's very interesting to me, and I didn't really see any headlines about this, but it was interesting to me that the president did not go ahead with the tariffs that he was supposed to, and everyone said Trump is weak, Trump can't do it, he doesn't, it was all a big bluff, and there was not one mainstream article that I saw that said maybe this has something to do with Hong Kong. Maybe he didn't put it in because of what's going on with Hong Kong. Here to talk more about this, we've got Dr. Michael Busler, who's a public policy analyst and economics expert, a professor of finance at Stockton University in New Jersey. You've read his stuff at Newsmax, LifeSet, and townhall.com. Dr. Busler, it's always great to talk to you.
Good morning, Paul. How are you? It's always my pleasure to be here.
I am doing well. So
Good.
Your initial thoughts on what's going on in Hong Kong? It seems like it's a powder keg,
Yeah, it certainly is. There's very tense relations between the people of Hong Kong and China, who really controls Hong Kong. and it really has to do with some freedoms that the people of Hong Kong want. And China, of course, wants to maintain their iron grip on Hong Kong. So how important is Hong Kong to China? Well, they're only about 3% of China's GDP, so it's not a huge amount if there was a big problem. However, Hong Kong is a financial capital for much of Asia, and China, which has to raise large amounts of capital, goes through Hong Kong. And if there is a problem, it could severely impact China's ability to get more capital, and that will slow their economy even further. It's hard to tell how much their economy has slowed because we're not sure we're getting completely accurate information. But for the last decade, they said their economy is growing at about a 10% annual rate, which is a phenomenal growth rate. By their own admission, they say that the growth rate is down to 5 or 6%, still a fairly healthy growth rate, but much less than what they've had in the past. I suspect they're being a little bit optimistic with those numbers, and I think their growth rate has slowed even more. Regarding President Trump, he's pushing hard for a new trade agreement with every one of our trading partners, and the reason is very simple. When he got into office, he examined every trade agreement, and for whatever reason, every agreement was slanted in favor of our trading partners and to the detriment of the U.S. For instance, in the automobile industry, they make a car in Europe, sell it in the U.S., we charge a 2.5% tariff. They make a car in China, sell it in the U.S., we charge a 2.5% tariff. On the other hand, we make a car in the U.S. and sell it in Europe, they charge a 10% tariff. We make a car in the U.S., sell it in China, they charge a 25% tariff. Well, the result of that has been that we're buying more of their cars. The tariffs are small and the prices are more reasonable, so our money flows out of the country. They're not buying very many of our cars because the tariffs have raised the prices, so not much of their money is coming into the country, and we have this huge negative balance of trade. So President Trump said to every trading partner, we have to renegotiate these. Everyone was in no hurry to do that because they're so favorable to them. So what did President Trump do? Now remember, he's not a politician, he's a business person. A business person, when you have a reluctant trading partner, you create a sense of urgency. And that's exactly what he did. He put tariffs on everything for everybody. Already, Mexico and Canada have come up with a new deal. South Korea has agreed to a new deal. Japan and India are talking to us, and now we need to get China in line. And that's what President Trump is trying to do, come up with a favorable trade deal with China. Now, there's all kinds of other variables in this. The Chinese economy is very important to the world economy. We don't want to contribute to a global recession. And there's politics involved in this, too. We're trying to deal with North Korea, and China's sort of on their side on things. So there's a lot involved here. But the ultimate goal is to come up with a good trade agreement. He doesn't want to necessarily hurt anybody. He just wants to force people to the table so they come up with a fair and free trade agreement. And that's what's happening.
So, do you think him not putting those tariffs into place when they were scheduled, do you think it had to do with some of the unrest in Hong Kong? Kind of a, I mean, you know, all these things are connected. I mean, if you were a businessman, you know, you're going to look at all of the variables, which is a lot of presidents don't do that.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot to see here, as you just said, and we don't know what's happening on the inside. I suspect that there was some indication from China that they're willing to be more open to a fair trade deal. Remember, we had a deal back in April, and President Trump set a May 1st deadline. We had a deal back in April. We're all set to sign it. China, at the last minute, decides we're not going to go along with what we said we're going to go along with. So President Trump could have put tariffs in then. He said, look, I'll give you till September 1st to come up with an agreement. Well, it's approaching September 1st. There's no agreement. President Trump said, I told you if there's no agreement, I'm going to put additional tariffs on September 1st, which he was all set to do. I suspect there was some talk between China and the U.S. indicating if you just give a little more time, we can probably work this out. So President Trump, he's very patient. Remember, President Trump plays the long game. He's not interested necessarily in winning a specific battle. He's just interested in winning the war at the end. So I believe what he said was, okay, China, I'll give you another 90 days. If we can come up with something or get reasonably close to coming up with something within 90 days, we'll not put on any more tariffs, and indeed we may reduce some of the tariffs. So I think we're getting a little closer, and I think he said, I'll give you 90 days more to try to come up with something.
We're talking with Dr. Michael Busler. He's a economist, professor, public policy analyst. We've got these Hong Kong protesters waving the American flag, singing the national anthem, according to reports. And it dawned on me yesterday. I was like, ugh. Beijing sees that, and they don't like that. We may look at it and be like, yeah, America still stands for something globally, like freedom of speech, freedom to assemble. But China sees that, and they're got to be very worried about that. And I think that's why the troops are amassing on the border. I've wondered. I don't know. This is just a blatant speculation, but are we behind this in any way? Is America behind this in any way? Attempting to not only protect the freedoms of the people of Hong Kong have, but maybe to kind of be an agitator. Who knows? The president did tweet, some people think that I'm responsible for what's going on in Hong Kong, and I don't know why. We have the Chinese now not allowing us to send our warships to port in Hong Kong. So, but I've heard very little speculation of the media that there are other moving parts that we can't see. It's really just like Trump can't do it. He's inept, and he's not sticking up for the Hong Kong protesters. That's the mainstream media's take on this.
Yeah, I would say that the U.S. generally doesn't have a position where we go and agitate, generally. And you never know exactly what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But we usually don't try to agitate. However, if we see a repressed people who are longing for freedom, we tend to do what we can to support that without necessarily causing a direct conflict with, in this case, the Chinese. So I think what the people in Hong Kong are saying by waving the American flag and singing the national anthem is that they want their freedom, and they're willing to fight for their freedom. Now, China can't allow that to happen. I don't know whether it'll get as nasty as what happened back in the 80s in Tiananmen Square, where that got very nasty.
Yeah.
But as you point out, they are building up troops on the border, and they may use those troops to try to quell this whole thing, especially because it's tying up the Hong Kong airport, which is one of the busiest in the world and really the busiest in Asia, and that's going to have a bunch of negative effects on the economy of not just China, but perhaps other countries in Asia, is what the fear is. So we don't know how strong China will be and what kind of a response ultimately China will have. I don't think China's going to let this go on a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
It is hurting them both economically and politically, so I don't think they're going to let this go on much longer, but I'm not sure that they would go full force like they did with Tiananmen Square. So there's a lot of variables here. The U.S. certainly supports any people that are longing for freedom. The U.S. will do what they can to support that, and I think that's the case here.
If you had to guess or speculate right now or pick a side, do you think the Chinese agree to a trade deal with the United States before the 2020 elections?
If I had to speculate, and as you've said, there are so many variables involved here, but I think they will come up with an agreement before the 2020 election. Their economy is hurting significantly. They can't sell because of the tariffs. They can't sell a lot of products like steel, and that's causing them to have to lay off people. When they retaliate by putting tariffs on food products. Now that hurts the Chinese people too. The reason U.S. manufacturers are over there in the first place is the labor cost is extremely low, and it's cheaper to make things over there. Well, if the labor cost is low, it means people's wages are low. So they have low wages, and now you're raising the cost of food to people with low wages, and that causes obviously a lot of problems and tensions. So I don't think China can allow this to go on for another year or so, and I think they're going to come to the table and come up with something, I believe, before the 2020 election.
Dr. Michael Busler, it is always great to talk to you, sir. Really appreciate your thoughts and your analysis.
Thank you, Paul. It's my pleasure. Look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely. Folks, telephone number 870-275-9799 if you want to contribute to the program. That's 870-275-9799. And I'll tell you this thing about China, man. I don't know. I mean, I hope what Dr. Busler said is correct. I really do. I hope that we do come to a trade agreement with China. I know Arkansas farmers want that to happen. I was reading some quotes from some Iowa farmers that said, you know what, Trump's doing the right thing. Even though it's affecting our markets, he's doing the right thing. But you've got the Chinese that are taking out advertisements in agricultural publications that are critical of the president. They are attempting to influence, you know, the election, with Trump supporters, farmers specifically. So you have to wonder, it is a balancing. I mean, as much as, if we're having consequences over here, they're having consequences over there, we're not getting the full picture, the full report. It's a communist regime. We don't really know how bad they are suffering, right? We don't really know. There are some indications. You have experts like Dr. Busler that can give us those indications. I don't know. Will they last it out? Will they let their people suffer? I mean, you got to know the heads of the Communist Party over there. They're going to be fine. Will they just let their people suffer and then attempt to help the Democrats win the White House, knowing that they are friendly to the Chinese? Because, well, quite frankly, they've probably all been greased. Can we talk about that for a second? In every situation where the Chinese government goes into a country to explore their minerals, their resources, in the name of economic development, in every situation, they grease the politicians first. They pay off the politicians first. Go look around the globe. Mozambique, Zimbabwe, in all of these situations, the Chinese come in first and grease the politicians to make the Chinese, quote, investment a thing. Now, knowing that that is a fact, and I would challenge anyone out there that disagrees with me, that it is a fact that the Chinese government, when they go into a foreign nation in the name of economic development and we're going to make things good, they grease the corrupt politicians first. Knowing that that is a fact, what makes us think that they would treat America, or specifically Arkansas, any different? This is a point that I have failed to make, but I'm making it now. Considering all of the senators who are in jail, the reps who are in jail, the lobbyists who are in jail, the people to come who will be going to jail for public corruption and misuse of taxpayer money right here in the state of Arkansas, something tells me that that would be very attractive to people from China. Maybe there's some that have just figured out how to hide it a little better. I mean, let's think about this for a second. Again, convicted felon, now convicted felon, then Senator John Woods, walks into Milton Russell Rusty Cranford's office, raises up his shirt and says, "I'm not wearing a wire. Where's my $30,000? These guys knew that an FBI investigation was underway. They knew that what they were doing, that somebody might be onto them, and yet they continued in their corrupt activities. You don't think that mentality is not known to Chinese agents and the Chinese government? Somebody prove me wrong. In every single case, when the Chinese government goes into another country in the name of, quote, economic development, or we want to help you guys out, or whatever they call it, we need your minerals, and we're going to give you this much money, and it's going to be great for your people, before they do anything, the first thing they do is enrich the leaders of that country, the politicians of that country. And if that is an undisputable, undeniable fact, why would we think they would treat Arkansas any different, and our leaders any different? Food for thought this morning on Conduit News. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas state capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
Abortion, so many times they keep that held deeply in their heart and don't talk about it. They don't have the right in our culture to grieve for the death of that child, but they naturally know that it was a death, that they lost a child that they may have wanted, but their circumstances just didn't allow that. So, not being able to talk about it, to share their grief, and sometimes their shame and guilt.
Yeah.
It damages them very deeply.
Yeah, a lot of shame and definitely a lot of guilt. I'm excited about the idea of this play. We're talking with Rose Mims from Arkansas Right to Life. The play is viable. Now, do you have locations secure? I mean, it's not till September the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. Telephone number is 870-275-9799 if you would like to contribute to the program. China blocks U.S. Navy ships from visiting Hong Kong. We already knew that. This is very weird times, strange stuff. We're going to keep our eye on it, obviously. Coming up at the top of the hour, headline from Talk Business and Politics staff about 13 hours ago. Ophthalmologist group petitions Arkansas Supreme Court for special master signature validation. The ophthalmologists will not give up. They refuse to admit defeat, probably because they spent a ton of money lobbying politicians to kill the optometrist deregulation bill in the session that became law and was signed by the governor. And then they spent a ton of money trying to gather signatures to get a issue on the ballot to overturn the law that they had already, they'd already lost, man. You already lost. And then you go out, these ophthalmologists, and they go out and they lie to people. I mean, well, okay, the canvassers. I mean, and some of these people, listen, I know ophthalmologists. I like ophthalmologists. Full disclosure, my father's an optometrist, so you just take everything I say with a grain of salt. That's fine. But I have been for deregulation on every, medical, on all of the medical issues. I just don't appreciate, being there, understanding the arguments, knowing the amount that this was debated, and then to hear and have the ophthalmologists pay canvassers to go out and mislead people, and in some cases outright lie to people. When a canvasser's telling somebody that that the current law is gonna allow optometrists to do cataract surgery, you guys are reaching a level of desperation that is unethical. And that's wrong, because that's not at all what the law allows optometrists to do. I met one of these canvassers, and he was misleading people. And, and then I said, well, they've been able to do these procedures in Oklahoma for over 20 years. And, once you say that, he's like, well, his only response was, well, this is Arkansas, not Oklahoma. Well, yeah, look at the two different states. Look at where they rank on national rankings. Look at where we rank. By the way, this is just about choice. This doesn't force anyone to use an optometrist for some of these new procedures that, again, optometrists can do in Oklahoma and Louisiana. This isn't rocket science. We're not reinventing the wheel here. And nobody's forcing it. It's just giving people more choices. More choices. That's all it is. Medical Society, one of the most powerful lobbies in the state of Arkansas, and they are proving it now. They take their one loss in the legislative session, their one loss, and they can't get over it. And they're trying to teach people a lesson, too. They really are. They're trying to teach the legislature a lesson. The Medical Society is trying to show the legislature that they are the final say, not the people's representatives and the governor. And it's just, I don't know. Look, I know it's all legal to gather signatures and do what they're doing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think it certainly violates the spirit of, what we all want our government to be. And the only reason I say that is just because I was down there and I saw the debates. I could see the Medical Society texting legislators on the committee, and then the legislators look at their phone and then have a point to make in the microphone, and it's coming from literally a puppet master. I saw that. Yeah, they didn't know who I was. I was standing right next to him. Anyway, we'll have more on that when we come back. Don't go anywhere, folks. Also, Mr. Hoover from the play Viable will be with us.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Going to be touring across the state. Do you have locations secured for all of these? Because I see one says Rogers or Springdale, Jonesboro, Little Rock, Texarkana. What can you tell us about the locations?
Well, we don't have locations. We are actively seeking venues. We would like to have churches open up their community, their family life centers, or even their sanctuary, if it would allow it, to bring this play to the communities, because our churches are full of women and men who are dealing with past abortion in silence. And this play is going to draw them out and give them tools, counseling. There are so many pro-life ministries that specifically deal with post-abortion trauma. And we want to give these tools to these people who are suffering. Everybody knows somebody that's had an abortion. Many times we don't know it because they don't talk about it. But just to have these resources to give them so that they can restore their relationship with Jesus Christ, number one, and then have a relationship with others in their life that are affected by their pain.
Yeah. I think that's, I think this is a really good effort, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. But I want to reiterate what you just said. So if there are churches out there, or people out there who are members of churches, and right now there are they don't have the actual locations yet. They want to perform this play for free to the public in Rogers or Springdale on the 27th of September, Jonesboro on the 28th, Little Rock on the 29th, Texarkana on the 30th. So those of you who are listening on our terrestrial stations as well as online, I got a feeling, Rose, that you guys are going to have a venue real soon for this play. I really do.
Yeah, well, that's top priority, having a place. The other need is finances to fund, the performance. It's $3,000 for each performance, and Arkansas Right to Life is seeking partners to help us to bring this to the community. It is not a fundraiser for us. It is strictly us wanting to bring the hope and the healing that Viable will give to the millions, and there's hundreds of thousands of people here in Arkansas that are suffering from a past abortion. We need this healing.
I agree, and this idea that the guilt that women carry with them, or the how it can destroy other relationships moving forward. That this is not a
think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Who can you trust? Hubba, hubba, hubba. Who can you trust? Money, money, money. Who can you trust? Me? I'm giving away free money. But where is the Batman? Hey, I'm not giving away free money, by the way. That's the casinos in Pope County. They're giving away free money. Hey, welcome to hour number 2. My name is Paul. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. Thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, so at the kind of the end of I'm going to rehash something real quick because I want to make this point again and we'll move on, but it needs to be made. In light of what's going on, has anybody seen what's going on in Hong Kong and thought to themselves, why is Arkansas going to do business with Communist Chinese, the Communist Party? Why does the Arkansas Economic Development Commission and Arkansas's political leaders, why are they pushing these deals in light of the trade war? Why are they pushing these deals with the Chinese? Why do they say they're going to break ground sometime next year on the China-Delphia plant, the biotechnology plant? Why are they continuing to push these in light of the trade war and also in light of the fact that China's hostile to Christians and China is cracking down on Hong Kong and the people that, the Hong Kong protesters that are waving the American flag saying, we just want to be free, guys. Can you imagine if Hong Kong, by the way, had the Second Amendment? I don't think this would be happening in the same degree that it's happening right now, would it? If Hong Kong had the Second Amendment. Why would we want to do business with, look, doing commerce, trade, okay, yeah, we trade with a lot of terrible countries, we're trying to negotiate peace in North Korea, and they do terrible things to their citizens, but it's still worth trying to negotiate and eventually open up markets if they'll denuclearize. It's like gradual. It's baby steps, just trying to save as many people as we can. But bringing those entities into our own state and giving them taxpayer money and taxpayer incentives to use our resources and send the profits back home. And with China, it's a country that wants to supplant the United States government. Something doesn't smell right about that. Listen, why China? That's exactly right, Janet. Why China? All right. I want the state of Arkansas, I want us to think about something, and I hope that nothing happens to those people in Hong Kong. But it looks like China isn't going to tolerate this much longer. And when those soldiers go into that airport and do what we all know they're going to do, I want you to ask yourself the question, why is Arkansas doing business with this government? It's a fair question. Now, this is the point I made last hour. In every case where the Chinese government goes to other countries, I mentioned Mozambique, I mentioned Zimbabwe, and many, many others, to exploit their resources and to do these economic development deals, in every single case, they grease the politicians in the country they want to infiltrate first. They find the corrupt politicians. And wouldn't you know it, Arkansas, I think, has an above average total of corrupt politicians. Now, we're trying to stop that. We've got a lot of them in jail, but I think we definitely have a culture that's above average when it comes to corruption. Why would we think if they are bribing leaders in other countries before they come in to make these, quote, investments where everybody's going to win, if they're doing it in Mozambique and Zimbabwe and others and Cuba, why would we think they would do anything different in Arkansas? Why would we just assume, well, they won't bribe our politicians when our politicians are walking into Rusty Cranford's office, showing them their, flashing them, saying, I don't have a wire, so give me my $30,000. Why would we think any different? It would be stupid of us to ignore a healthy American skepticism of those in power. It would be dumb of us to just assume that men are angels. I wanted to make that point again because it desperately needs to be made. No one's making it. I should have made it a long time ago, and I haven't. Again, if they're bribing politicians in foreign countries, first, that's what they do first, before they get their laws passed, before they get their deals in place, they go in as a friendly gesture and they pay the leaders. And if they're doing that in foreign countries, and I don't know who it would be, I'm saying, but if they're doing that in foreign countries, why would we assume that they're not doing that here? And why would we be doing business with China? Something to think about. When that military goes and does to those citizens of Hong Kong that are waving the American flag, that want their freedom, when the Chinese military does what they're about to do, and I hope they don't, but if they do, I want you to think to yourself that our leaders in our own state can't wait to do business with the communist Chinese and bring these deals to fruition. That's wrong. Even the fact that they're in the situation they're in now is wrong. 870-275-9799. Gene on Facebook, how do we know Paul Harrell is not wearing a wire? Well, I don't think I'm definitely not gonna horrify the audience and prove that on camera for you guys. Trust me. Oh man! Again, telephone number 870-275-9799. If you're just joining us and you don't know what we're talking about, on Sunday there was this article in the Democrat Gazette about the FBI transcripts when it came to these Arkansans, these politicians who have pled guilty or have been found guilty of stealing massive amounts of taxpayer money through kickback schemes and bribe schemes and that sort of thing. And the FBI transcript revealed that John Woods, according to testimony, according to interviews, walked into Rusty Cranford's office, the lobbyist, and demanded $30,000. But before he did, he raised his shirt up to show that he wasn't wearing a wire, and that's kind of been a running joke the entire week. So, Gary says that I am wearing a wire. It's in his ears. Okay, so I guess I am technically wearing a wire, or wires. These are wires. Yeah, speaker wire. That's a good point. Okay, 870-275-9799. Talk business and politics. Ophthalmologist group petitions Arkansas Supreme Court for special master signature validation. This is at talkbusiness.net. And the ophthalmologist group, the pro-ophthalmologist group, Safe Surgery in Arkansas. That's because they want you to believe that the new law that deregulated the practice of optometry, that lets them practice within their scope of practice and their training, they want you to believe that the new law enables optometrists to do surgery, like, cutting open your eyes and doing cataract surgery and things like that, which is not the case. Safe Surgery Arkansas is asking the Arkansas Supreme Court to appoint a special master to review its signature collections. In a court filing made Tuesday, the ballot question committee and its chair, Dr. Laurie Barber, who's a Little Rock ophthalmologist, they say they want the Supreme Court to step in, appoint a special master to review signatures. And this is, again, they're trying to overturn a law that has already been debated in committee, 2 committees, passed in the House, passed in the Senate, signed by Governor Asa Hutchinson. Thank you, Governor Hutchinson, for signing that bill. And yet, now the ophthalmologists want to put it on the ballot. They've collected signatures. I think the canvassers have collected signatures under false pretense, because I've heard at least one of them, and I've heard others, secondhand information about others who've talked to the protest or the signature gatherers. Rather, did I say protesters? Secretary of State John Thurston has said that he's not going to count 61,000 of the group's signatures because he says that they didn't provide the proper paperwork for the canvassers, for the signature gatherers. You have to provide paperwork saying, I think that you're not a felon. And they turned that paperwork in, but they turned it in after they got the signatures, not before. So he disqualified a large number of signatures. And so now this may be the ophthalmologist's last gasp, if you will. I mean, who knows if the Supreme Court's going to appoint a special. I mean, it's over one measly law. It was like one measly law that just allows optometrists to do what optometrists in Oklahoma have been doing for 20 years. One measly little law that allows optometrists to do what they're trained to do in optometry school. Well, it's not medical school, Paul. I mean, just show. I want to see the list then. Show me the list. I know, look, you could point to 1 or 2 cases, maybe more, where, an optometrist somewhere made a mistake. Newsflash, doctors make mistakes? Come on, this is just about freedom of choice. Trust the people to make the right decisions for themselves, okay? Please, don't just think just because you are, some professional that people who aren't ophthalmologists don't know how to make decisions for themselves, for their own bodies and their own. I mean, come on, think about it. There's nothing more personal than your own health, right? Because if you don't have it, you don't exist. So give people a little credit that they're going to know, and they're going to be able to decide, yeah, I don't mind if my optometrist that I know and, it can do a procedure that he couldn't do before. So frustrating. A representative for the group opposed to overturning the measure, waiting on the lawsuit. Quote, we are confident in the Secretary of State's application of the law and rejection of the petition, which includes tens of thousands of unlawfully solicited signatures. Vicki Farmer, chairperson of the Arkansans for Healthy Eyes. This is the group that organized as a result of the ophthalmologists group. We think the court will affirm the Secretary of State's decision. Meanwhile, we are excited for Arkansans to enjoy better access to eye care as the state works to implement Act 579. The sun's going to rise tomorrow, folks. Really, either way this goes, sun's still going to come up. The medical society in this state, they refuse to do anything that might lose them money. I don't believe for a second this is actually about the safety of the patients. I really don't. I think from an economic standpoint, if you want these procedures done right now, you have to go to an ophthalmologist. And if you don't, then there's nothing you can do. There's way fewer ophthalmologists in the state than there are optometrists. I think it's about the money, and the fact that and I tell you what, you know how I know it's about the money? When this bill passed and the ophthalmologists lost, the ophthalmologists filed a bill to allow opticians to be contact lens dispensers. Now, why would they do that when optometrists and ophthalmologists in the state are the only ones who can dispense contact lenses? They did it for spite. Because the ophthalmologists essentially were saying, you're coming after our pocketbook, so we'll come after yours. And we'll make sure that opticians get to dispense contact lenses as well. Oh, by the way, guess what? I supported that. I thought it was a good idea. Because I just want to deregulate, period. Right? I want people to have more options and more choice in their health care, period. By the way, full disclosure, my father is an optometrist. I want to be clear with you people out there that might try to say otherwise. So take what I say with a grain of salt, but I thought the ophthalmologist trying to allow opticians to dispense contact lenses, that's a great thing. And it's funny, it's like one does one thing, the other does another, and boom, and we possibly are more free because of people's fighting in spite. But what it lets you know is this isn't about safety, it's just about money. That's all it is, about money. And to think otherwise is to just be naive, right? Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to reject your throw granny off the cliff leftist talking points. That's only done to garner sympathy, pull emotional heartstrings, and get people thinking emotionally instead of thinking rationally about what we're actually talking about, right? Reject the emotional arguments. Your emotions betray you every day. My emotions betray me every day. Reject the emotional arguments, and instead let's talk about being rational, and let's think critically about this. In a market-based economy, which we barely have in healthcare, with these specialties, you still have a little bit of it left. This is about protecting your piece of the pie. And that's why the ophthalmologists are really opposed to this, because of the money. They would say otherwise, of course, but why else file that bill after you lose to try to hurt the pocketbooks of optometrists? Answer me the question. Back in just a moment. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org. This is not some sort of contrived scenario. I was at the Marble Palace, or at the Capitol, and we were hearing one of the pro-life bills this last session. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Jason Rapert's trigger bill. Anyway, I think that's what it was. But there was a person that came down into the committee table and testified about the abortion that she had had. and I can't remember her name, but I believe she works at a pregnancy resource center somewhere in South Arkansas.
Yeah, that was Melinda Chisholm. I was there also.
And so, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it ruined her life. I mean, she told of all the different relationships that it affected and people in her life that are missing, because this is a missing child. And in the Bible play, this woman who has had this secret abortion, she's confronted by this child and that she aborted. And it's so...
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Haven't actually seen this yet. Just kind of scrolling across. Kieran Skinner. Who's Kieran Skinner? Breitbart News is Christina Wong is reporting about the firing of Kieran Skinner, a top State Department official and respected black foreign policy scholar who was fired, and no one knows why. And now she's described as being pro-Trump. Immediately after she was fired, Politico published a piece citing anonymous sources that blamed her abusive management style, making homophobic remarks, accusing people of having affairs. However, in the days since, supporters of Skinner have claimed there were other reasons. One former senior administration official said Skinner was targeted because she was determined to implement President Trump's America First agenda at the agency, and because she had a powerful position as head of policy planning. The former official said Skinner was the only person who could effectively block or accept policy memos from various regional and functional bureaus from going up to Pompeo. This frustrated career officials and Trump appointees who disagreed with the agenda alike. The entire building wanting her gone. Well, let me just tell you, I mean, the entire building is full of people who don't like change, and they don't like not being listened to. And I have no doubt that there are career bureaucrats who are very frustrated because the president is not listening to them. He's listening to other people. On foreign policy, on everything, yeah. I mean, for example, I think that Senator Rand Paul has the president's ear on foreign policy. I mean, that's not even a speculation, by the way. That's, I mean, the reports about their golf game and talking about, how do we handle Iran? And you say what you want about Rand Paul. Everybody says, oh, Rand Paul, he's this pacifist. He wants to withdraw. He wants America to be isolated, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't appear to be the case. And that's what people said about him. That doesn't appear to be the case. He just doesn't want to go to war at the drop of a hat. When Iran shot down one of our drones and the president was about to, go to war, essentially, and he asked, how many people are going to die? 150 people, sir. Yeah, that's not worth it. I don't want to take 150 souls off of this earth for somebody shooting down an unmanned drone. Now, where do you think that came from? Sounds like it came from Rand Paul to me. Now, that is a blatant speculation. I don't know. But to me, and then you have people in the State Department actually trying to implement some policies that the president wants, and then you get fired. Anyway, this is up at Breitbart.com. It's just one report. Again, there are other reports saying she was fired for other things. We shall wait and see. Folks, when we come back, I want to introduce you to a writer and producer. His name is John Hoover. He's written a play called Viable. It's going to be touring through the state of Arkansas in Rogers or Springdale, Jonesboro, Little Rock, Texarkana. Going to be at these 4 places towards the end of September. We'll tell you more about that and what Viable is when we come back. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
Powerful. I just want so many people to be able to see this play. And, I'm not worried because I know God wants this to happen too. So I need churches and I need people to step up and financially support it. We will do a love offering at each performance to help to cover the expenses, but I can't depend on that. I mean, these people are coming from, South Carolina, and they're traveling all over the United States. And Arkansas has got to come up with the funds to make this happen. It will be a blessing to everybody who attends it.
Okay, so if there's a minister or a parishioner out there, and they want to get in contact with you, Rose, and Arkansas Right to Life, what do they need to do?
Well, they can call 501-663-4237 or email me at artl4237@att.net.
Okay. And they can also find out more information, I'm sure, at Arkansas Life.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
We really do appreciate it. Let's see here. We just had Mr. John Hoover on the line, and he's calling back, and so we're just awaiting his call. We were just talking with him. He had to call back, but he here he is right here. He's writer producer John Hoover. His play is called Viable, and it's going to be touring through the state of Arkansas. And it's about abortion. Well, it's about the tragedy of abortion. So here now with us, we have writer-producer John Hoover. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing better than I deserve, but God is a very merciful and patient Lord.
He is. He is that. Yes. John, we're excited. The whole state's excited about you taking your play on tour in our state of Arkansas. It's going to be either in Rogers or Springdale up in northwest Arkansas on the 27th
Right.
of September, Jonesboro on the 28th, Little Rock the 29th, Texarkana on the 30th. And I want to remind that Arkansas Right to Life, we talked to Rose Mims yesterday. They're still looking for venues, so if there are any churches that want to volunteer their spaces, get in touch with Arkansas Right to Life. John, tell us what your play Viable is about.
It's about the post-abortion trauma that women and men, but mostly women, experience after losing children to abortion, which is the way that we phrase it in a lot of crisis pregnancy women's centers now, in courses that women can take to understand what has happened in their lives. Women that go to abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood, for one, to those who are familiar with this process, are rarely told the truth about what's going to happen to them, certainly not told the truth about what's going to happen to their babies in the process of abortion. And so they find this stuff out after the fact. And they're also told that they won't have any regret or remorse, that this is non-viable tissue and there's nothing for them to emotionally be attached to. But any woman who's lost a child to stillbirth or any other kind of birth trauma knows that there is long-term grief, sorrow, sense of loss, and that kind of trauma will build over time, especially as they learn more about what's happened to them and the fact that they were lied to. The whole abortion industry, and it's a very lucrative industry, as you know, is all predicated on mendacity. They can't, if they tell the truth to young women or women of any age coming in for abortion services, then they're going to opt out of the abortion. I think Planned Parenthood's own statistics are that when there are people praying and holding vigil outside the abortion clinic, abortion rates drop by as much as 75%.
Wow.
You can imagine the percentage they would drop by if they told them the truth about how fetuses are dismembered and extracted from the womb. So I didn't call to get graphic about that. And the play really is not about the graphic nature of abortion. It's not even about the politics, the legality, the constitutionality of abortion, as much as it's about women who are suffering grief and loss, a terrible sense of loneliness and being all alone with this grief and sorrow and loss, and how Jesus Christ in his love and mercy can forgive them and set them free. And that's the story of Viable, is a woman who lost a child to abortion 30 years prior, has lived and suffered with that grief and that sorrow and that loss for 3 decades, and she has a visitation from the child she lost in a dream. And God sends her the message that she's forgiven and set free, and that Jesus died on the cross so that she didn't have to suffer the way that she's suffering, that her sins are forgiven, that she is the beneficiary of his mercy and of his grace. And it's a powerful story, not a dry eye in the house. And the play itself, Paul, is kind of my way of taking the fight to the enemy. Those of us who value life in God's creation in the womb have been on our heels, kind of on the ropes, on the defensive against a very aggressive, pro-choice, pro-abortion population for, well, ever since Roe versus Wade almost 50 years ago. And we've of all the places where we have not spoken out and we've been much too silent for much too long, it's in our churches. And so a lot of churches to this day, and believe me, I deal with this every week, won't take this on, won't talk about it from the pulpit, feel it's too divisive in their congregations. And so that's one of the reasons why, as you mentioned and Rose mentioned yesterday when she was speaking to you, that we're looking for churches. And we've done this in South Carolina very successfully in churches. Churches are great venues to do the play because it deals with the righteousness that Jesus can bring to those of us who are not righteous. And as I mentioned before, his mercy and his redemption. And the church is the proper place to have that conversation, and it's the proper place to deliver that message. And so churches are great venues, great spaces in which to tell this story. It's only 75 minutes long. It's a one-act play, and it's usually followed by a lot of prayer, conversation. Sometimes we have panels, and we talk about what women can do who have had this experience. Counselors come out from the local crisis pregnancy centers, and every city has them. And then the prayer warriors and the prayer teams from the church come out, and they pray with women and they pray with men. The first time we performed this in a major conservative Presbyterian church in Greenville, South Carolina, the first two men to come, the first two people to come out of the sanctuary crying were men, much to my surprise.
Hey,
I know and we all know that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
You mentioned, we're talking with John Hoover, by the way. If you're just joining us, writer, producer of the play Viable. It's going to be touring through Arkansas at the end of September. You mentioned that this play does address the grief that a woman carries after, having an abortion and not telling anyone about it.
Right.
But then you also mentioned the man. So what can, I know it could be different for everybody, but how does this affect men?
Well, the first thing that happens is that they're losing their child, and it puts a wedge into a marriage or a relationship, which is what the play deals with, is that the man has the much anticipated response of being angry that a woman made a decision to terminate the life of his child, and often that's done without a man's consent in our day and age. That's part of the political correctness. The men and their parents, probably some of the greatest anger I've seen toward the act of abortion has come from a grandmother who lost her grandchild, to an abortion, and her son didn't have anything to say about it, and she was very upset with that. So men lose children just the same way that women lose children. Of course, the man is not carrying the child, so the dynamics are quite different, and a lot of other issues are involved, but a loss of a child is a loss of a child, and you can imagine, and you might even know, as most of us do, married couples who have lost children to stillbirth, miscarriage, and the grief and the loss is carried by both because it's their child. And so when a child is lost to the act of abortion, the man suffers as well. So a great deal of what Viable, the play, deals with is what it does to the marriage and how Christ can not only restore the woman to peace, but he can restore the marriage, which is super, super, super important.
Does the play deal with, you mentioned mendacity, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Big Daddy, nothing more powerful and obnoxious than the odor of mendacity, Brick.
That's right.
And so here's the thing. Does the play deal with the lies that this woman might have been told, when she got the abortion? You mentioned that earlier, that oftentimes the abortion industry lies to the woman about what is actually about to take place.
Yes, that's right. And if you have the chance to see a wonderful movie called Unplanned, really, really well done film, about a woman who for 8 years was the director of a Planned Parenthood facility. A big point she makes in that film, and then in the book, of course, she wrote that preceded the film, is that, I'm trying to quote her as closely as I can, she said that my job for many of those years was to be an abortion salesperson. And timeshare salespeople had nothing on me. I could convince a woman that she's not going to regret this, that the baby's not going to feel anything, that there is in fact no baby, it's just non-viable tissue, and on and on and on and on, and things that just fly in the face of common sense and science and embryology. Of course, it's a human child. From the time it's a single cell, it's a human child. It's not going to grow into any other species, any other race. It's going to be what it was created to be. But besides that, hoping that the play will kind of Harriet Beecher Stowe this issue in a much bigger way, because what the woman comes to grips with, I'll say that the dramatic climax or pinnacle of the story that the top of the summit of the arc of the character, the woman who named Judy in the story, is when she finally admits that she was lied to. Because one of the things that she's done for 30 years is not just to grieve and to suffer the depression and the post-traumatic stress symptoms of having aborted her child, but she also bought into the whole set of talking points that came from the pro-abortion community to defend herself and to justify what she did. Because there's no way, if she looks to Scripture, there's no way that if she looks to common sense, and as I said, the basics of science and embryology, that you can justify what you did. There is no moral foundation or construct under which you can justify terminating the life of an innocent child.
Yeah.
So she bought into the Planned Parenthood script and has been reciting it and become a militant supporter of abortion for those 30 years. And her breaking point dramatically in the show is when she finally confesses that it was all a lie, and she knew it was all a lie, and she had nothing else but the lie to go to until someone comes to her and shares with her the love and the forgiveness of Jesus Christ. And now she has somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And that's where she finds peace, and that's where she finds comfort. And so obviously what a great, great message to deliver in the fellowship hall or the sanctuary of the church.
Yeah.
So, and we're doing it, I think, in a Catholic church up in the north west portion of the state.
Okay.
Whether that's, I'm not sure which exact city that is, but Rose mentioned that was happening. So
Good.
This is a subject that builds a kind of a wonderful bridge in a way between the Catholic Church and the Baptist Church and the Protestant churches and the evangelical churches and some charismatic churches. Because the one thing we can all
agree on this.
Sanctity of life. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I kept thinking of while you were describing the mendacity, the lies that women are told when they're in a vulnerable situation, they don't know what to do, it's a crisis in their life, and then they're being told, hey, you can kill this child and everything's going to be fine, and it's not really a baby and everything else. I just think of what the Bible says about what the first woman went through. The promises that were given to Eve. You will not die. You will not die if you do this. And so, the women that have been through this, it's not like you're the first person to ever be lied to and sin because of it and do something, terrible because of it. Go ahead.
No, that's a wonder. I was going to congratulate you and say that's a wonderful, wonderful parallel to draw, Paul, that, when we're vulnerable, when somebody's intent is to deceive us, that's where the timeshare salespeople came in. If you really knew what you were buying into here, what you were about to sign off on, you probably wouldn't do it. And that's what happens in the abortion clinics, and, of course, that's what happened to Eve in the garden.
Yeah, that's exactly
if
right.
she had known the consequences of what she'd done instead of believing the serpent. And so that's the whole thing, is that we're battling against people who are deliberately, intentionally, methodically deceiving women.
We're talking with John Hoover. John Hoover, the writer, producer of the play Viable. It's going to be in Arkansas the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Check out Arkansas Right to Life. And also, what's the website for Viable, sir?
Viable Play, one word, viableplay.org.
Okay. viableplay.org. Now, the admission to this play is free, but Arkansas Right to Life is looking, because they do have to pay you guys to come. And they are looking for donations to try to help with this, and so it is such a good cause. It's going to help, I think, a lot of people, bring out some tragedy maybe that they've been keeping, to themselves for a while. And John, I'd like to interview you again as we get closer to that date towards the end of September. And real quick, how many performances have these players done?
To this point, it's a brand new show. We've been out 5 times, and by the time we get to Arkansas, probably they will have performed this 12 or 14 times.
So that's fantastic. So that's
and there is some video. You can see some video of the show other performance when you go to that viableplay.org website.
All right. And we've been airing some of those highlights just on mute in the background as we've been broadcasting this. John Hoover, great to meet you. Thank you for your passion for this. You're doing Kingdom's work here, and great to meet you. And I'd like to talk to you again soon.
Well, that will be wonderful, Paul, and please give all the support you can. I'm referring to your listeners, to Rose Mims and Arkansas Right to Life. It's a great organization. She works very hard. They all work very hard. They are all very, very dedicated. And next time we talk, we'll have to chat about Johnny Cash. We'll have to do it on a Friday.
I am totally I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Great to meet you, sir.
You bet.
Folks, we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back with your meme of the day. Don't go anywhere. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org. A Right to Life website, correct?
I believe so, yes. And they can go to viableplay.org.
Okay.
I know that pastors sometimes are hesitant to get on board with something that they don't know anything about. We have a 9-minute trailer that we can send to pastors to look and see, what this is all about. Mm-hmm. And it's something that they really should offer their church and their community in these cities where we'll be bringing Bible. Like I said, it will be a blessing. You will not go away from it not touched.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited about this prospect. Right now we've been playing just the video of the highlights, so without the sound on, and the audience reaction, and how powerful that it is, and.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, check it out real quick. Can we get Bill Clinton in drag back up there? So Bill Clinton was the president of the United States. His big buddy, Jeffrey Epstein, which he flew with 26 times on the Lolita Express, had a picture reportedly in his house, had a painting reportedly in his house of Bill Clinton in the Oval Office wearing a blue dress. The blue dress looks a lot like Hillary's dress that she wore at one time, but many people also say that it could be the blue dress that Monica Lewinsky wore that Linda Tripp, for some reason, decided to keep. President of the United States, everybody. Now, honestly, look, the weird thing is that this was hung in one of this guy's friends, I think best friends, house. And it's extremely weird and strange. It's do what? Yeah, Jeffrey. You got that picture of me with the blue dress and the red shoes on in the Oval Office. Jeffrey Epstein, man, he's a character. He is really, man. I mean, I tell you. Yeah. What a creepy, creepy photo. Anyway, this makes things more, it gives more context to what's going on here, right? This is not just some sort of, they've all made statements distancing themselves from Jeffrey Epstein and everything else. It's all one big family, right? It's about to be one big, happy jailbird family. That's what I think. I just want to leave this up there as long as I possibly can because it's so weird. It is a weird, weird situation. Why would you hang this in your house? What does that say about Clinton's and Epstein's relationship, you know? Does it really mean that Hillary was wearing the, was in control? Does it really mean that Monica Lewinsky defined as president? Is that really what it is? Just like Monica Lewinsky defined your presidency, and so here you are in drag, for that whole thing. Folks, you can get the program at conduitnews.com. Get the podcast, audio only. Get the video, archives, whatever you want. It's all free at conduitnews.com. We would love for you. One thing that you could really do to help Conduit News, the one thing you could do that would really help us is to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com. Search for Conduit News and click the subscribe button. And then go and click that little bell to receive notifications on your phone or on your YouTube account when we go live, when we have smaller videos, like the video we did with Michael Bustler, the video we just did with John Hoover. You'll get a notification when that separate video is uploaded. And then we would like for you to send that video to your friends to get more people listening, more people watching what we do here every morning from 6 to 8 every day. Here is your meme of the day. Let's get Bill Clinton off there. Here is your meme of the day. We're going to take Bill Clinton's photo off to put up another Bill Clinton photo. Here it is. This is courtesy of the Instagram, Da Rattlesnake. Oh, DTA Rattlesnake on Instagram. So here's the thing. Michael Jackson, really famous songwriter, had 18 hits. The Beatles, very famous band, one of the most famous bands of all time, 27 hits. Elvis, known as the king of rock and roll, right? 30 hits in the music industry. Bill and Hillary Clinton, 34 confirmed hits and still counting. That's the show. Folks, you can always find out more at conduitnews.com. Facebook page. We're going to post this meme up to Facebook and Twitter. Arkansas, thank you so much for being with us. And I want to remind you, the question to ask about China and Arkansas is, why would China treat Arkansas any different? If China is going around bribing every foreign country that before they go into, they grease the politicians first before they go into Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Cuba, other countries, why would they treat Arkansas any different? Just the biggest question I think we've asked all year on the show today. We will see you tomorrow. Johnny Cash Friday.